On today's episode, we are talking about grief. It can't all be rah rah and power. You have to process the hard things as well, grief being one of them. We're going to talk about grief and letting go of your old self, letting go of old ideas, letting go of old people, environments, and habits, and that it's okay to process through those. Let's get into it. Okay, welcome to Elite Outcome Academy. I'm the host, founder, and creator of Elite Outcome Academy. I am your coach, mentor, advocate, and I'm here to help you gain more perspective, better feelings in life, and an outcome that you never believed that you could have, one that you've always dreamed of, and an elite version of you that you have been waiting to build. Today we're talking about grief. Grief is a really hard thing to deal with. It is very easy to try to turn on the escape mechanisms. It's really easy to feel like a victim. It's really easy to become docile and destitute because you are experiencing the loss of somebody, something in life. So I break down grief in a way that is understandable to me, that for one, it's part of our natural survival mechanisms. It is part of who we are as a creature, as a being, as an animal, as whatever it is that you want to classify it as, a living organism. This is part of our built-in DNA structure, unless you're some sort of sociopath. If you don't feel grief when things happen, then you really don't belong here with Elite Outcome Academy. I'll put it to you straight. Anyhow, grief comes in more packages than just the loss of somebody or the loss of something important. You know, we can feel grief when we lose a loved one. We can feel grief when we lose a beloved animal, a pet. We can feel grief when we lose, something that had a lot of high sentimental value to us. We don't often think about grief as being something that needs to be processed in order to become the next best version of you, to level up, becoming elite in your own life and for the lives of those around you. When you start to level up, you start to build a new foundation, and every now and then you don't lay one of those bricks correctly because you didn't process the grief of shaking off old environments, old friends, old behaviors, old ways of thinking. And there really is a form of grief that comes in this, because there's a piece of you that feels like you have to divorce. You have to let go. You have to shake it off. You have to let it be left in the past. You know, I had an interesting thing the other day. I'll talk about this real quick. I had a version of me show up for just a few moments the other day that I thought was completely gone. Something that I had worked on and still do clearly work on, because he showed up again, was this sense of cowardness, of shame, of doing something wrong. You know, it's one of my trauma responses from being a child is, in order to protect myself, I had to make sure that I behaved in a way that was non-disruptive to other people. I caused a little disruption, and I dropped you there. You wouldn't believe how I've got this set up. We're just going to keep rolling and keep it live. I had some disruption. I caused a little disruption. And I felt that thing in my body happen. My neurology went, ah! The alarms went off. And I couldn't believe it. It's been a good long while since I've felt that. And I realized that he showed up because I never grieved having to lose that part of me, because it was so important. It was such a staple in me surviving the environments and the situations that I did when I was a young kid. The interesting thing about that is I've also done the complete opposite, where I've been insanely disruptive, where I have been in more fist fights and violent situations than anybody else that I know that's not a professional athlete. I have been in so many arguments and altercations in my old life of, old nightlife stuff. And I equate those things as having to be in suppression for so long of conflict resolution, by not even getting to the place of conflict resolution, but instead behaving in a way that created no conflict in my direction. Well, I kind of combine the two powers. I combine my ability to not be disruptive. I used that skill set. So remember, we always come back to skill sets. What are the behaviors? This is what Elite Outcome Academy is about. What are the behaviors that we have experienced, the characteristic traits that we have developed? How do we use them to our advantage to become the next best version of us? You see, we gain skill sets during destructive behavior. That's why the book that I'm writing, titled Successfully Destructive, is being written. It's why I've created all of these programs, because instead of just becoming new and gaining a whole new set of skills, a whole new set of tools, a whole new set of characteristic traits, we can kind of flip the ones around that we have and take a look at them and make sure we're using them correctly. Is there anything worthwhile in this tool? And this tool for me that we're talking about was my ability to be non-disruptive and disruptive. So I looked at it and I said, okay, I can use my capability to not be disruptive by becoming non-hypocritical about the things that I'm talking about. You see, if I'm going to talk about something, I don't want it to be disruptive. So I want to make sure that I'm talking about it from a place of authenticity, a place of expert standing, a place where that foundational brick in my own skill set in becoming, my own version of becoming elite, I want to make sure that brick is placed right. If I'm gonna extract anything out of the characteristic of behaving in such a way that is non-disruptive, if I have this part about me that does not want to be disruptive, and I've got this other part of me that's willing to be disruptive, which is why I've created Elite Outcome Academy, because I see the need for so many people to overcome some of and most of the same struggles that I've been through. We'll get back to grief here in just a second. I just want to finish this thought. So, turning that characteristic or skill set or tool of being able to navigate life in a way where I don't say anything disruptive, I don't behave disruptively, and actually I do the complete opposite, where I attempt to be as helpful as possible without reward. I created this version of me as a child that wanted to not only be non-disruptive, but to be praised and looked at in a way that was more of a, hey, he is allowed to be around because he is more helpful than unhelpful. He is more peaceful than chaotic. He is more, whatever it is. And these all boil down to my willingness to survive. You see, these were all survival mechanisms. We talk about the steel thread, the steel cable of survival, the mechanism. I'll break that down in another video coming up here shortly. And these are all survival mechanisms, okay? So I look at my characteristics, my capability to kind of hide in plain sight, and my capability to also be disruptive. Kind of combined the two, looked at them, flipped them around, pulled and extracted the tools and skill sets out of them, and figured out how to apply them correctly. So the hiding, non-disruptive, non-chaotic version of me allowed me to see that there's something in there that does not want to be hypocritical. So I pulled the tool of hypocrisy out and I looked at it and I said, okay, if you don't want to be disruptive, and that means you're behaving in a way that nobody can call you out on anything for being disruptive, what does that mean? Well, this comes down to being non-hypocritical. Okay, perfect. Take that tool and I put it in my toolbox and I say, everything that I talk about is indisputable to me because I am unhypocritical about it. I have no hypocrisy in the thing that I'm talking about. So I'm curious what you have in your life that you can apply this as well, where you can apply this tool of non-hypocrisy. Okay, now getting back to the grief part of it. I hope that made sense. If not, comment below, let me know. I'll cover it again. I'm going to cover it again, and I'll make sure I do a better job of helping everybody understand what it is that I'm talking about if there is any confusion. So back to grief. Grief is important. So one of the things that I really talk about is open and closed neurological loops. We can think about this like the electricity in your house. If the light switch is off, essentially the circuit is closed to the light bulb. There's no electricity going to it. And when you turn the light switch back on, the circuit is open and it can flow freely to the light bulb. Well, what we have to do is we have to do this in our neurology as well. In our brain, in our body, our nervous system really holds on to the fight or flight or freeze now that they're talking about, that we're talking about. It holds on to the warning signs, the mechanisms that help us navigate our survivability. Sometimes they're falsely wired in, or there's wiring that needs to be replaced. I used to buy old houses and repair them, and sometimes electricity had to be ripped out and replaced. So we do this with our bodies as well, and how we do this is we come to terms with the fact that old habits, old behaviors, old systems, old thinking has to go. It has to be torn out, thrown away. New circuits have to be installed or updated. Sometimes the electricity in an old house doesn't need to be thrown out, but some things need to be updated so that we can open up a circuit to allow the old beliefs and behaviors and the mechanisms that are wired into your survivability to flow freely and to complete their circuit, so that they no longer have an influence on how you operate, where you operate, and how you think and behave. And grief is really a powerful tool. And our bodies don't know the difference. Literally, our bodies are so incredibly complex that they don't have, like, our nervous system does not have the time to be analytical or intelligent. It only is or is not. It's so important for us to be able to live and survive that our system only knows a certain set list of things to do. Just like the wiring in a house. It only knows flip on a switch, turns on the light, flip it off, turns off the light. When we lose somebody important to us, we know how that process goes within our minds and in our bodies. We think about all of the different things. What's it going to be like without them around? I wonder if they've gone off to a better place. This is so terrible. Life will never be the same. Well, think about it. That was an important person or an important animal or whatever to you that you lost. And so you had to go through the process of grieving. And then eventually you become, a lot better. Kind of in the shadow of that is losing pieces of ourselves. We hear about this in love songs and love stories and stuff. Two people break up and one of them says, I feel like I lost a piece of me. Or I gave that person all of me and now I don't know who I am. This puts you into an intense state of grief. Been through that myself until I put this program together. So you have to go through the process of grieving. When it's external, we naturally do it. When it's internal, our bodies don't know what to do. When we create new versions of ourselves to lose an environment, say, for instance, for me, being a nightlife person for as long as I was, it was hard for me to walk away from environments that I loved to be in. I had to grieve it, because if I didn't, I would go check up on it every now and then to see, hey, is everything still the same over here? And who cares? I don't care if it is still the same over there. I don't need to know. I don't want to know, because that was a version of me that is no longer suitable to who I am becoming. But it took a long time. Came a long time in the making. It took many visits and checkups. And if you can hear it from me and not have to do that, then that is my goal for this video in all of the stages of grief. When you start to become new, so let's talk about fitness. You have to grieve the fact that that old version of you that was keeping you comfortable has to go. You have to grieve the loss of that person. The person that was part of you that allowed you to eat the junk food, allowed you to sit around all day, gave you excuses not to exercise, because that version of you kept you comfortable. That version of you kept you in a state of survivability. However, like I said, our neurology is unintelligent. It's very complex, but it's not intelligent. It only knows or does not know. So you have to shift your homeostasis. You have to shift where your body believes is the best place for you to survive. You have to do this in your mind. You have to do this in your body. You have to do this in your behaviors. You have to do this in your environments. So feel free to grieve the loss of pieces of you that no longer serve you. This is ultimately the point that I'm trying to get to in this video. Grieve the parts of you that no longer serve you. Put that person, put that version of you in the same place as if you lost somebody or something that you loved. Because our bodies and our minds know what to do in processing that information. when it's external. When it's internal, our bodies just hold on to it because it directly affects our survival mechanisms. So take some time. I did this. I'll tell you a quick story, and then we're going to jump, and we're going to get back to work and becoming elite on our own, for ourselves, by ourselves. Of course, with our community, but you can't become an elite unless you push yourself towards excellence, personal excellence. So I spent about a year and a half writing a letter to my younger self. And I called it Little Brother. And it's a story that really is based on two versions of me: the child version of me and the adult version of me. And it's little brother, big brother. So little brother is excited to see big brother, and big brother is bummed out, and little brother is confused. And big brother says to little brother, "I'm sorry, little man, I can't hang out with you anymore. The truth is, you're no good for me. You distract me. You make me think about all of the ways that I'm inadequate. You make me think about all of the ways that I'm not good enough. You make me think about all of the issues that you bring to the table that make me want to not pursue happiness, pursue fulfillment. You make me believe that life is what it is, how it is, and that nothing will ever change." And little brother is confused. Because in the story, little brother is 5 or 6 years old. And he doesn't understand. I'm only 5 years old. How can I be causing so much chaos in your life? Well, big brother explains. It's not you specifically, but it's what you represent. You see, it's not your fault, little brother, but you are a coward. It's not your fault, little brother, but you don't know what you don't know. And now that I know it, I have to let you go. Because if you continue to come with me, we can never become what we have always dreamed of being, having, and doing. If I need anything from you, little brother, I'll check in, because sometimes I have to remind myself what we've been through. Little brother looks at big brother and he says, "I think I understand. I understand that you are me. I understand that you are trying to do better for us. I understand that I no longer serve our dreams and our goals and our ambitions. So goodbye, big brother. I give you the respect that you deserve and that you need in this decision." Big brother looks down at little brother and he smiles. And they give each other a high five. And they have a mutual agreement that little brother doesn't die in the story, but big brother and little brother have to create a lot of separation in order for big brother to do what he needs to do, to go on the journey that he needs to go on. Little brother doesn't die in the story because little brother gets to go play. He doesn't have to think about all the things that happened. All of the things that he never got to do, he gets to do. He doesn't have to worry about the world anymore. He gets to be a kid. And big brother gets to take all the things that he learned from little brother and he gets to change the world with him. He gets to change one person at a time. He gets to change one family at a time. And he gets the opportunity for little brothers everywhere to be little kids, to be little brothers. You see, I am both little brother and big brother today. The little brother inside of me gets to play with my kids. Gets to have childlike behavior and activity, imagination, creativity. And big brother, he gets to do this. He gets to help you. He gets to help the outcomes of as many people as will come along. And I take the power and the gifts that my life has given me. I turn them over and I look at them upside down, backwards and forwards. And if they don't serve me, I grieve them and I let them go. And I take with me what I need. And I don't let the things that need to go drag me down and hold me back any longer. And you can do the same. By being part of Elite Outcome Academy, you can become a version of you that you never dreamed of. I never thought I would be here speaking with you in these videos, at events, in my books, in my coaching programs. But here I am today because I had to grieve and let go. Those versions of me that were desperate, those versions of me that were anxious, those versions of me that were unworthy, those versions of me that were depressed. Well, they're all buried and in a better place. And that better place being not present in today's world. Not in my world. With that being said, become elite. And hey, find somebody to be kind to today.